Dwayne Johnson. And he reads his, his endorsement. Now, by the way, if you've seen this, if you're watching this, if you've seen it, how many of you guys have already seen when he makes his endorsement about who he's going to vote for, okay? Here's what he said. Let me just read it to you. My conversation with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, as a political independent and centrist for many years, I voted both for Democrats in the past as well as Republican. In this critical election, I believe Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the best to lead our country. And as my first ever public presidential endorsement, I proudly endorse them for presidential office of our United States. Progress takes courage, humanity, empathy, strength, grit, and kindness, and respect. Being kind and respectful to one another will always matter. And then he did an interview with both of them for about 5 or 6 minutes. And he talked a lot about trust. He was mainly talking about trust. It's very important to trust. How can we trust that you're going to deliver and keep your word? How can we trust that you're going to deliver and keep your word? And the audience reacted. I think there was a couple 100,000 comments. Yeah. Some were happy, some unfollowed, some were disappointed, some were. But he got beat up a little bit. Yeah. What are your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, okay. Here's my thought. Number one, watching the video is a lot different than reading it. When I watched that video, I thought I was watching a hostage. Like how a hostage has to get in front of a camera when your captors are forcing you to say something. Rush Limbaugh, had some interesting comments today. He was very, very forceful, talking that this is all about China. All right, that according to Rush, that this is pleasing his masters in China because of the funding for the films and how well his films do in China. So when I watched that tape, I felt I'm watching a guy that didn't want to be doing this. Okay, he didn't vote in the 2016 election. He didn't even vote. And now it's so important for him to even endorse one of the candidates. So I found the whole thing odd. It opens up a lot of questions. A lot of the funding does come from China. His movies do well in China. It would behoove the Biden administration to have China support. And does The Rock move the needle with people? Probably. Although he did get beat up and crushed a little bit more than I thought. I thought everybody would be just praising him on social media, but he got hammered a little bit. So I found the whole thing awkward and staged and really not sincere, to be honest with you. Not 100% sincere.
Well, the initial hostage video was the first video he did about a month ago.
Where are you?
Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah.
He really went into rock mode.
He did.
And Pat does play a good rock when rock is unavailable. Matt Sapala, I think, was
that's a good point.
Matt Sapala, if you're listening, shout out to Rock's
look-alike.
Look-alike. These days he's as big as The Rock. I don't think this was a good idea by The Rock. I don't see a lot of upside for The Rock. He must have thought, I'm going to piss some people off.
Yeah.
I already have 100 million Instagram followers. We did the debate of who would make a better presidential candidate, The Rock or LeBron. Overwhelmingly, people said The Rock, movie star, dominant force. LeBron, a little too left in many people's ideas. I don't know why The Rock came out and decided to do this. I don't see a lot of upside. He's a beloved figure on the left and the right. I don't know. Only he can answer that clearly. Clearly, when they say if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, the guy has made multiple videos disparaging Trump. At this point, why can't we just take it on the surface where he just doesn't care for Trump? Is it just that easy as that?
That's how you process it?
By the way, do multiple videos like that.
Matt Sapala responded, say, yeah, I am. And he said, little cousin of The Rock, that is, LOL. So he got what you said here.
We love you, Matt Sapala.
But Mike, what do you think about it, Michael? Before I'll get my thoughts here in a second.
I agree. Believe it or not, I agree with Adam. I don't see an upside there. I just really don't. Part of me was wondering. I was like, wait a second. He hasn't worked in a while. It seems. I felt like he was putting a movie out every 2 months.
Yeah.
And then with COVID or whatever. Is it part of holding on to relevance? Kind of doing something to shake the trees a little bit or something like that. I don't know. I didn't see an upside either.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
All right.
I'd like that.
Something that we can even talk about right now. Who's paying The Rock's bills? I know we brought up China. Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Hollywood. Is Hollywood more liberal or conservative?
You guys, there's a really easy explanation for this. That dude is like in level 10 Jumanji right now. He doesn't even know what's
I don't know why we didn't think about that, guys.
You got hit in the head too much?
Oh my gosh.
Jumanji at the moment. He doesn't know what's going on.
You think he's more rockstar brains and donkey brains than Biden right now? Is what you're saying?
I think it's rubbing off.
I would love to see The Rock have more of his wrestling persona. I miss that.
Yeah.
He was the greatest entertainer in the world as a wrestler, and now You know, he's The Rock. He's a great actor.
Is he not the biggest movie star on the planet right now?
Well, I mean,
who's bigger than The Rock?
I'm not saying he's not big.
Who's
I'm
bigger
saying
than The
he's
Rock
not
right
as
now?
entertaining.
Okay.
I loved his persona.
Other than Samuel L. Jackson, Pat.
Let's
Who's a bigger movie star?
let's kind of unpack this on all levels. Let's look at it from all angles, okay? On one end, he becomes the two-time back-to-back making the most money in Hollywood as an actor, $124 million income, and the next year I think he makes relatively around the same number as well. A big part of because he started doing movies that have to do with China. So that's number one. His movie started getting picked up in China. He did that one movie where he's the hero, he's climbing in this big building, tall building, he's coming down, skyscraper. That movie did incredible. And he realized, if I do movies that are not good for China, I get paid $20 million, maybe $25 million. But if I do with China, I get paid $40, $50 million. So you got to know from that standpoint that business is business, okay? So even if Biden raises the taxes to 39.6, let's say he does. So you make $25 million if you do movies that are in state. Now you do a movie that's going to be also sold in China, but you're going to make $50 million. 39.6 of $50 million is still more money than 20% on $25 million, if that makes any sense. So he's not sitting there saying, I still would like to see something take place with China. So I understand the argument about him wanting to protect China. I think China really wants Biden to get elected. You have to understand this. China, Iran, North Korea wants Biden to get elected. It is that simple, okay? China, Iran, North Korea wants Biden to get elected. That's the one thing to be thinking about. Now, whether you like China, Iran, or North Korea, that's up to you. If you're somebody that wants China to get stronger, Iran to get stronger, and North Korea to get stronger, then Biden's your candidate. It's that simple. I'll give you the other side. When has there ever been a time where the face of Hollywood hasn't voted left? Never. When has there ever been a time? But Clint Eastwood's never been the face.
John Wayne.
He's been a great actor. That's a long time ago, right? So you're talking about
years ago.
You're talking about during our lifetime, you've not had somebody that's the face of Hollywood that's voted on the left. So let's flip it. Say for example, let's actually be advisors of The Rock. Rock calls me for advice, and Rock says, hey Pat, I'm being pressured in Hollywood, man, to vote. Dude, what do I do? Seriously, they're telling me because I got to protect Kamala, and I got to come out, and my manager and all the people that is on my camp, they're all about Biden. They can't stand Trump. Bro, what do I do? I got to win this Hollywood because these movies and all that. What do I do? What would I tell him? I'd say, you know what? Honestly, when I look at you, you have the American flag up all the time. You're all about America. You love America. Everything about you is about America. You look like a guy that if you ran today for office, you'd be a center-right guy. You don't look like a left guy. I said, you're better off not saying anything. If he asked for advice from me, not to say anything. But say if you said to him, come out publicly and say you vote for Trump. Why? Because who ran WWE? Who was the guy that ran it?
Vince McMahon.
What is the difference between McMahon and Trump? What is the difference between McMahon and Trump? So the guy that changed your life is twins like Trump. They have everything is in common between those two. Daughters running the business. I mean, you go down the aisle, McMahon and Trump are twins. So if you support McMahon that changed your life, this is the same guy that you're voting for. So imagine if Rock does come out and he says, I support President Trump. What would have happened to Rock 24 hours later? I actually want you to think about this. So as a business advisor, would you have told him, if he's openly calling you, you're the person he trusts the most, would you tell him behind closed doors, go ahead and come out and say you want to endorse Trump? Would you have? Because if he did, his career in Hollywood is over.
Well,
I wouldn't say anything.
He couldn't
That's the
endorse
point.
Trump, right? I mean, the other option is not doing anything, and then the third option is endorsing Biden, and it all is because of China. I think your analogy with the, when you look at the increased tax and whatnot, he still has to pump these movies out in China, and that's the bottom line. But he could have done nothing like Tom Cruise does, right? No one knows which way Tom Cruise votes. Still does pretty well, pretty big movie star. So someone was telling him to do this, and he listened.
There are very few people in Hollywood that are untouchable when it comes to things like this. So there are very few people that are going to go against the norm because their careers are on the line. You know what I mean? And so it's like I remember when Ice-T came out in favor of gun rights, and it was a huge deal. And everybody was talking about it. Everybody was like, I can't believe Ice-T, like I never would have thought Ice-T this, would say this and that he's for, gun rights or whatever. And then Ice-T's response was, what are you going to do to me? I'm Ice-T. I've done everything. I have everything. What are you going to do to me? Give me my guns.
But that is The part about that is he's in the I don't give a shit mode. He can do that. Okay, Clint Eastwood is in the I really don't give a shit mode. Like, dude, what are you going to say to me? But Vince Vaughn comes out and he supports Ron Paul. What happens to him?
Done.
When's the last time you saw him? One of the funniest actors of our era. This guy did a movie called Psycho, I believe. I don't know what movie it was. What was American? He did some
Psycho.
He crushed it in that. And then you go from that to The Wedding Crashers, and then you go. I mean, the guy's a ridiculous actor, right? Where is Vince Vaughn? Where is Mel Gibson? Mel Gibson, one of the best actors of our era. Now, I know some of the comments he made. I'm not going to go through. But hang on a second.
Mel Gibson said Vince Vaughn
when you see the award ceremony that they had 2 years ago, guess who was sitting at the same table? Go look at the award ceremony right at the front. You know who's sitting at that table? Vince Vaughn, Mel Gibson, sitting right next to each other. Because they relate.
Yeah.
In a way, they've both been ousted. Mel Gibson's one of the best actors of the last 40 years. In that world, you're walking on eggshells if you say anything. So the point, you made a very good point. The difference is The Rock still gives a shit. And if he still gives a shit, he cannot change his position. Guys, let's not forget for the longest time, Trump was a Democrat. Let's not forget for the longest time.
Longer part of his life.
For the longest time, he was a Democrat. He gave money to everybody. Everybody. Because he still gave, you know, like, listen, I got to be careful. I need these guys to change certain laws. I need these guys to do certain things.
Sure.
He gave money to everybody. I just don't. I think if Rock would have came out and he would have said, "Listen, you know, Trump's changed my life. I'm going to endorse him," I think it would have been very ugly for The Rock, and his career would have been absolutely over.
Oh yeah, he couldn't have done that.
So I don't think he could have done that.
Do you think he was forced to do it, or do you think he chose to do it?
So there's the other story that's coming out saying they have something on him. Like, you know, maybe there's a story of him with another woman, or there's a story on him with a Weinstein and all this other stuff. Quite frankly, if that does happen, man, what a life to live, to be held hostage for something that somebody has a video, a text, an email, a racist thing that he did 20 years ago that's going to come out today, and they're going to say, imagine if you're held hostage for that the rest of your life. Every single thing they say, you have to do. I just don't see Rock being that, where it's something like that. I simply think he chose career, and he was the right move to make today, to say, I'm going to go for Biden and Kamala. I actually don't think it's bigger than that.
Yeah, do you think there's any economic impact? It's like when Michael Jordan says, "Hey, Republicans buy shoes too." He stayed out of everything. Is there any economic impact, you think, for him taking a side like that? Are people going to choose not to go to the movies that he's in?
Well, the way you got to look at it is how many followers he lost. His Instagram account didn't lose followers. He was at 198 million followers. 3 days later, he's still at 198 million followers, 199 million followers. So if you go look at his impact, I don't know. He's more like Nike to me. Nike announced Kaepernick. They went up. I don't see this thing taking a big hit.